What was my pitch trying to hire people to come be an NSA hacker? Frankly, it was that I could offer them the opportunity to do something that would be illegal anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting pitch. If you don't want to be beholden to the Computer Fraud and Abuses Act, I'm your girl. Come work for me. So we'd find these kids,
Sure.
most of whom were, again, kind of strange. We'd bring them to
Like Dexter.
Maybe not that kind of strange, but I take your point.
Similar dynamic.
But but I would tell you, yes. I mean, I definitely, people on the autism spectrum do really, really well in that kind of environment. We'd bring them in. We'd give them 18 months of highly classified training. Our pass rate was only about 50%.
Okay.
So it is about as hard to become an NSA hacker as it is to become a fighter pilot if you're already in the U.S. Air Force Academy. So this is the cream on top of the cream of the crop. These folks who, and I have to tell you, half the workforce is these young kids coming out of college with a new computer engineering degree that really want to take on the world. The other half, folks enlist in the military in the United States. I don't know how this works in Britain. You'll have to tell me. If you enlist in the military in the United States, the very first thing you do is take a test called the U.S. Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, the ASVAB. The ASVAB is basically an intelligence test, and the government here uses it to decide which roles, which skills you could do. So if you go in and you get a 10, maybe you're going to be a cook, maybe you're going to be a truck driver. All really important things, but they don't require this great cerebral brain talent maybe to get involved in. When folks would go into the Navy recruiting station and take the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, and if they got a score that was off the charts, I'd get a call.
Wow.
Rachel, we got someone coming to you. Many of these kids, 18 years old, did not have a day of college to their name. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you are, the son of a couple of dirt farmers in Mississippi, if you grew up in a pocket of the United States where college was not in your future, but you've got that kind of intellectual horsepower, you're my guy.
Yeah.
So we'd have kids show up. Again, they have no formal computer science training.
And this is probably the only way of, the nearest you have to nationwide IQ straining,
Yes.
right? It's just everyone who takes this test.
And the thing is, the Israelis do this par for the course.
Right.
When you do your 2 years of service in Israel, you've taken this test. And so they're putting their population through the sieve much more intentionally. The North Koreans, you turn 11 in North Korea, you take an intelligence test.
Very interesting.
If you score best and brightest on that North Korean intelligence exam, you are immediately on-ramped into their bank hacking program.
This is so logical.
Yes.
Every country needs to do this. Come on.
Well, there's also free will, not to
Well,
be,
you don't have to then, you don't then force somebody into
No.
it.
Well,
You give
in
them the
North Korea
opportunity.
you do. Right?
Okay,
In
no,
North
of
Korea
course.
you take out the free
We don't
will
take the
element.
North Korean approach, but
No. But understanding, I mean, this is, and I get really emotional about this, the fact that we found young men and women, 18, 19 years old, that their life circumstances were never going to be conducive to college, never going to be conducive to, that Ivy League path. But we find them because they don't want to, I mean, it's a real example. A kid who was working at a Walgreens in Tempe, Arizona, decides on Thanksgiving weekend that he, really wants to see the world. So he enlists in the Navy, takes the test. 18 months later, that Walgreens employee is working for me, doing some of the hardest nation-state hacking activities the U.S. government has ever conducted.
That's so interesting. And must be a bit like being told you have a superpower.
Yes.
The government comes out of the ether, tells you you're special. We need you to do this special secret mission. I mean, it's the stuff of movies, isn't it?
Well, and we couldn't tell them anything about what we had in mind for them. They go off to basic training just like everybody else, and they're jumping over fences and crawling through ditches, having no idea that
they've been singled out.
That they have been singled out and that they are on a path to become a professional hacker.
I'm interested to know, I mean, you're describing a very rare personality type by definition, and in some sense, morally complex personality types. On a leadership level, in terms of managing people, what was some of what was the good guiding ethos for how you approach this very complex workforce? Any illustrations or anecdotes you could share that point to this element of leadership?
So I loved it, but I will tell you, it's not for everyone. So to your point, I used to characterize this environment as, imagine having a fraternity on a submarine. That's kind of what we got here. So you've got a lot of weird people from very different walks of life. Everything from, newly minted computer science PhD out of Georgia Tech, now sitting next to a 19-year-old kid from Pascagoula who has never been to college, but now they're doing the same job. Mm-hmm. So the kind of the cultural relativism of this workforce coming together was an interesting thing. And also just people who needed to be managed, thinking about CIOs, like people who need to be managed in a way that is quite different. So biggest challenges that I had as, what I loved to be referred to as the queen of the hackers at the NSA.
Cool.
Biggest management challenge, I kid you not, was hygiene.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So, it's one of these things where I actually had shower caddies in my office. Folks would come in the morning. We'd give them a little bit of the sniff test, see if they were ready for human cohabitation at that moment. And in some cases, the answer was no, and we'd send them down to the showers. So lots of conversations about, these guys wanted to work all the time. I had problems with people sleeping at work. I had problems with people sleeping in their cars because they couldn't be bothered to go home. They just wanted to get back on keyboard. They just wanted to do more work. And this led to some real compromises in basic hygiene. So these were the kind of life skills that, I got to teach these young men. And again, it was a man problem with the hygiene. The other big problem, so I am not a gamer. But I will tell you, video game addiction
is real.
Particularly when is rampant. So think about it this way. If you have an employee who is routinely late to work, that's a problem. But if you're late to work at the NSA, I have to send the police to your house. I have to work with the assumption that you're on a plane to Moscow, i.e. Edward Snowden. So if you're 2 hours late to work at the NSA, it is an all points bulletin saying we got to find you, because if we can't find you, we might have a real problem.
They have to be scraped away from their PlayStations.
And this would be the issue. So again, I don't play these games, but I will never forget the week that Halo, and I don't even remember which version of. Have you ever played this game?
I'm not a gamer myself,
okay.
But I've seen Halo.
It's
a guy on a planet shooting aliens and people.
If you say so.
Yeah, if you say so. Yeah.
The day that Halo came out, I had a workforce crisis. The entire workforce wanted to take the same week off. They all had the game on pre-order.
Wow.
The game arrives. All of a sudden, I come to work. There's no one there. And not because they slept through their alarm, but because, we had to reschedule whole swaths of mission-critical operations because of Halo. I hope it's that good a game. I have no idea.
Do you not think they saw their work as like the ultimate IRL computer game as well? Do you think they'd get enough out of that?
Well, it's never quite enough.
Never quite enough.
And so
real stakes.
We would have a lot of issues with. We actually had a psychologist on staff. We would host PlayStation interventions, Xbox confiscations. I was getting girlfriends and sisters and mothers involved.
Finding them girlfriends.
Well, you need to get up in the morning. You need to come to work on time, because if you don't, we got a real problem.